They told us that success in the insurance sales business is all about relationships. And honestly, they lied. It's not all about relationships. It's all about the kinds of relationships that you build with your clients. And in this video, I'm going to break down some of the common problems and traps that I see when it comes to relationship building, or maybe not relationship building, and why prioritizing being respected by your prospects, being respected by your clients is actually more important. So what I've got on the screen here is a bit of a magic quadrant, if you will. It's a bit of a 2x2 grid, which I love because I think so many of life's most difficult problems can be solved using a really good 2x2 grid. Shout out to Kim Scott and her radical candor for that central insight. But what I've got here is on that vertical axis, I've got the need to be respected by clients and the need to be liked by clients on that vertical axis. So the need to be respected means that I'm going to tell the uncomfortable truth. I'm going to lean into the tension of a particular situation. On the bottom, the need to be liked, I might sugarcoat things. I might not challenge people directly. I might prioritize them liking me over them feeling like, yeah, maybe I said something that made them uncomfortable, but it leaves them better off, right? So that is really the central insight that we're trying to unpack in this video, and all the different ways that you can go about making sure that you're building a relationship on trust and respect rather than just being friendly and pleasant. But so that's the vertical axis. We'll hang on to that thought for just a second. On the horizontal axis, we have being transactional in your sales approach, and we have being a relationship builder in your sales approach. So now we have two axes, which gives us 4 different quadrants, and each one of these quadrants I have seen as archetypes, as advisor identities out in the wild. And depending on where you fall, you might want to change course a little bit. You might want to move somewhere else on this advisor identity map. So that's what we're working with today. I'm going to start with the upper right quadrant. That is our need to be respected and our relationship building approach. So this we really can call our trusted advisor quadrant. Trusted advisor quadrant. And this, I think, is what most people in the biz are trying to get after. And let's talk a little bit about the different behaviors or the different traits that you find when an advisor really is prioritizing being respected, not just liked, not just nice, not just pleasant, and they're trying to build a relationship where it's two-way, it's not one-way, it's not transactional. They're actually trying to offer more than just the policies, more than just the program. They're trying to offer expertise. They're trying to offer that confidence, that trust that you will be there on that person's worst day, or maybe the worst day of their business. So what are some of the behavioral attributes that I see in a trusted advisor? Well, chief among them is that this person asks a lot of questions, and they ask a lot of tough questions. Tough questions. Fundamentally, the trusted advisor knows that their job is to help their prospect confront the reality of the situation that they're in and help them make a good, informed decision given that situation. So I'm going to repeat that because I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but a trusted advisor, your job as a trusted advisor is to help your client confront the reality of the situation that they're in, and doing so in pursuit of helping them make a good, informed decision. If you are unwilling to ask tough questions, it likely means you are unwilling to help them confront the reality of the situation if they don't already see it today. So what do I mean by that? If I think about maybe the life insurance space, okay? If you're unwilling to ask a tough question like, well, so what's the plan if your income was no longer around? Do you think your spouse would have to remarry? Would they have to downsize? Would you have to pull the kids out of extracurriculars? You know, asking tough questions like that to get them to imagine what life would be like for their family should their income no longer be around, their income no longer be available. Or if I think about business insurance, if I'm thinking about business insurance, business interruption insurance in particular, in having conversations with different commercial producers, sometimes that's a coverage that they're not exactly comfortable speaking about or getting in depth with, or really recognizing the true limits required for their business interruption insurance. And oftentimes what we find is that a commercial producer will just send along a questionnaire, just a sheet asking for annual revenues, asking for net profits, and then basically asking, well, what's the duration of the coverage that you want to last? So then using that as a way to calculate, okay, what's this kind of baseline level coverage, rather than really sitting down and having the conversation. Or even springboarding to another line like life insurance when we're talking about things like keyman insurance. Even if you are a commercial producer and you don't sell life lines, if you identify like there's a key person in the organization, and if that key person was no longer around and that could jeopardize the income of the business, the trusted advisor doesn't look at that situation and thinks to himself, well, you know, I don't really sell that product. That's not really my space. I'm not licensed, so I'm not going to bother highlighting that as a gap or highlighting that as an issue. If I'm a trusted advisor, I'm going to think to myself, man, that is a big problem that this prospect has. Even though I can't help them directly, I know somebody in the industry who can. And the other key is that if you don't know somebody in the industry who can, part of the job of a trusted advisor is to go out and find those people. We are trying to solve as many of our clients' problems as possible. So that's chief among them. Asking tough questions is a huge behavioral attribute of the trusted advisor. The other thing that I want to point out here is that this person looks to win business on their ideas. Hopefully you can see that's a light bulb. That's a light bulb shining. Their ideas, their expertise, and the happiness and confidence of their clients. Look, it's not just about trying to advise them to death or trying to be super technical and always focusing on educating them. There needs to be some element of it where that person just likes doing business with you on the personal lines front or the business lines, right? Whether we're talking about personal lines or commercial lines or life lines, people like doing business with people who they like. So there's an element of that needs to be balanced out as the trusted advisor. Okay, that's trusted advisor. That's what we're all working towards. What are some of the other traps or some of the other archetypes that I've seen that you might find yourself in? Well, let's go straight for the bottom left quadrant. So bottom left quadrant, that's going to be somebody who prioritizes being liked over being respected, and somebody who's much more transactional in their approach. So if we look at that, I'm going to call this person the pushover. This is the pushover quadrant. What are some of the behavioral tendencies that we see for the pushover quadrant? So this person is highly task oriented. And sometimes it also means they're highly underwriting oriented. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that this person likely has a volume of work that's crazy in a given week. There's so many things that they need to get done all the time that when they do have a new opportunity that comes up right in front of them, the first thing that they're trying to do is acquire as much of the underwriting information as possible. And not only is that the first thing, but that's the only thing what they're trying to do. If you're somebody who's the pushover, you're super task oriented, you're super underwriting oriented, you are speed running to acquire as many of those details as possible to try and get a quote as quickly as possible. And then try to send that quote as a PDF to that person's email as quickly as possible. And in doing so, you're trying to be liked, you're trying to be pleasant, you're trying to be fast, you're trying to be cheap, right? And really the goal for this type of archetype that I've seen is they're really trying to win the business by being cheap and nice. That's their goal. And because that's their goal, being cheap and nice, as soon as they hear that their quotes or whatever, look, I'm not going to get into the quoting debate on this video here, but let's just say for argument's sake, it is a quote. Let's say they hear from the prospect that their quote is not cheaper. They automatically assume, the pushover automatically assumes that means that they cannot win the business. That means that there's nothing that they can do to earn the right to do business with that prospect. So they just kind of give up. And I'm going to say they actually don't follow up at all. So FU means follow-ups, Follow-ups, they don't do that. So no follow-ups from the pushover. Task-oriented, underwriting-oriented, getting details as quickly as possible. They might even just send an email questionnaire and say, hey, prospect, can you fill this out? As soon as you fill this out and send it back to me, then I can go to the market or I can pull a quote together for you. It's not relationship building at all. They're trying to be nice. They're trying to be pleasant. And that's really the only way that they're trying to win, being cheap and nice. Now let's look at the other two quadrants remaining. And I would call the other two quadrants traps. Because in those other two quadrants, you're actually maybe trying to get into that trusted advisor quadrant. There's an attempt, a philosophy, an approach, a concept, a goal maybe of becoming the trusted advisor, but you're falling into one of two different traps. So let's look at the upper left quadrant first. So that is the need to be respected, which means you likely are asking tough questions. You're trying to win using your brain, using your expertise, using advice, using your education. However, you are not approaching it from the lens of being a relationship builder. So this quadrant, if we have the pushover on the bottom left, I'm going to call this top left quadrant the pusher. This is the pusher quadrant. So a couple things to note about this one. If you are a pusher, it likely means that you actually do have a process. You're not just winging it. So I'm going to say, that's good. You got to check. You got a process. You're not just flying by the seat of your pants. Maybe you're not just trying to acquire all the underwriting details immediately. You have some kind of qualification process. You want to make sure that the person you're talking to is someone who actually might end up buying from you, right? You might actually make sure that there's an underwriting appetite for them. It's business that you can write. It's business that you will write. It's business that you want to write. This person also is not trying to be friends. So not trying to be friends. Trying to be friends. And that's actually a positive thing. That's a positive thing. And I say that's a positive thing because if you are just trying to be friends with someone, very difficult to ask tough questions, very difficult to lean into the tension of a tough situation. If this person truly is in a poor situation and they're having a difficult time confronting the reality of the situation that they're in, then if you're just trying to be their friend, you're trying to be friendly, you're trying to be nice, you're trying to be polite, then that is not a great way to push them to make a good decision, right? You have to be willing to disagree with your prospect. You have to be willing to tell them that you see things differently than they do. And we have to ditch the customer's always right mentality, the customer's always right attitude, which I know some of us bring into the industry, particularly if we come from a different service industry prior to finding ourselves in insurance. So this person, the pusher, is not trying to be friends with the prospect, which is excellent. Where they fall short, they are trying to speed run. They are trying to speed run to the quote, which is very similar to the pushover, except the motivation for speed running to the quote is a little different between these two, and therefore micro behaviors, little actions that they take in between will be different. So the pusher, because they're trying to speed run to the quote as quickly as possible, they're not slowing down to move faster later. So what do I mean by that? if they're just trying to acquire the underwriting information as quickly as possible after qualifying is good, but they qualify, they're getting the underwriting information, they're speed running to a quote, they're not understanding how this particular person likes to make decisions, if there's another decision maker to be involved in making the decision, if they're not finding out the emotionally compelling reasons for why this person might say yes to partnering with them over and above the price of the policy or the level of investment required to move forward with a program with your agency, with your brokerage, that's where this person runs into trouble, because they are just speed running to get a quote and move on as quickly as possible if it doesn't work, right? If it doesn't work, then they just move on as quickly as possible. Very few follow-ups, if any, and very similar to the pushover, the person who is just order taking, the person who's just trying to be as nice and pleasant as possible. The difference here with the pusher is that they run the risk of sometimes sounding like a bit of a jerk, or sometimes sounding like they're not trying to help the prospect, which in the long run can build a reputation that is not very favorable, and it's going to be very difficult to get introductions and referrals from prospects who maybe didn't do business with you, but really liked your approach, which, by the way, that is something I hear almost weekly from the brokers and the agents that I coach. Maybe they were working on a new opportunity for one reason or another. Maybe the underwriting guidelines didn't quite fit the markets that they have access to, wasn't able to do something for this new opportunity, but they handled it the right way. They were really trying to be the trusted advisor. They earned the credibility and the confidence of their prospect. And even though the prospect didn't place business with them, they send referrals to them. They send referrals to that advisor because they just had a feeling like, man, if only they could write my business, they would have earned it 10 times over. But I want my friends, my family, my coworkers, my business associates to do business with them because I can tell that they do things differently. Depending on your line, it's going to be a little different. But if you are the pusher, very difficult to come across in that particular outcome. It is unlikely that someone who didn't do business with you will send you a referral, will send you an introduction. So that's the pusher and some of their positive attributes and maybe some of the things that are inhibiting tremendous success, particularly in the long term. The bottom right quadrant. So this is somebody who does have a relationship building approach. They're trying to form true partnerships. It's not asymmetrical. It's not, just trying to focus on the underwriting details, and it's not just trying to move on as quickly as possible. They are taking time to build rapport. They are taking time to learn more about the person behind the policy rather than just grabbing all those details. So let's cover some of the maybe pitfalls of being in this particular archetype. So one of the pitfalls is that they talk a lot about relationship. They talk, we'll say talk big, and we'll write big, really big. Talk big about relationship, and service, but they never truly go through the process or the necessary step of defining what kind of relationship they're trying to build with their prospects, specifically with clear objective milestones, or the type of service that they're trying to deliver to their clients. Again, specifically with clear objective milestones. If you're the kind of broker or agent who says, well, we really pride ourselves on service, our agency is all about service, clients love us and come to us because of our service, that's what every single agency on planet Earth is saying about themselves. If you just keep it surface level without truly defining what that service level looks like, what that service expectation should be for your prospects, is very difficult to differentiate. Very difficult to differentiate because you just sound the same as everybody else, and you're just not really delivering on something truly spectacular, right? You're trying to build a relationship, but if you're not clearly defining what kind of relationship that looks like and what the expectations are both ways, then you're actually not winning that way. So that's issue number one. Yes, I like the concept of trying to build good relationships, but it's not clearly defined. So that's one of the traps. Next traps is that a lot of times that level of non-specified service and non-specified relationship is just defaulting to speed and nice. So we'll say defaulting to fast and nice. I see this all the time. When I work with producers, they'll tell me, well, service. It's all about service. That's how I win my business. That's why my clients love me. It's all about service. And then when asked to define a little clearer, well, what do you mean? Like, what have clients said about you? What do they like about the service that you offer? They'll say, well, they really like that I'm really responsive, that I'm really quick to get back to them, that if they send me an email today, they get a response back today, this sort of thing. Or they just really like me. They say it's pleasant, it's a nice experience, and that sort of thing, which is good. But fast and nice has a price. If you win on fast and nice, there's only so much of a change that they can see on a renewal, or only so much of a steady state they can be in with someone else trying to break in and take that business away from you, that is going to be covered by fast and nice. You need to build that foundation, that relationship, on something a little stronger than just fast and nice. And the last thing I'll say about these folks, when it comes to follow-up, because we're talking about follow-up on each one of these quadrants, follow-up for these folks usually looks like an email that says, hey, just checking in, which is probably my biggest pet peeve ever. Hey, just checking in. So you go through the hard work of trying to build a relationship within your prospect. You're learning more about their family, more about their business. You're trying to uncover some of the emotional reasons why they might say yes to partnering with you. Then you get the underwriting details. You prepare what you think is the best possible recommendation. You walk them through it. So far, you've done everything right. You get to the stage where they're ready to make a decision, or at least they should be ready to make a decision. They don't, and you don't advise them on how to make a good decision. You just are prioritizing being liked, and you say something like, "Oh yeah, no problem. Take your time. Review it as long as you need. Go talk to your spouse. Go talk to your accountant. Go talk to whoever. Oh, you're trying to get 2 or 3 different quotes. No problem. I get it. I would do the same thing." That's this quadrant. And what ends up happening is you've got that recommendation, you shared it with them, you're waiting to hear back, and because you didn't set a decision date, because you didn't set the expectation that they really do owe you one, and you booked it into the calendar with an appointment that both of you had agreed to, you send an email, "Hey David, just checking in. Hey David, just following up. Hey, just wondering, have you had a chance to talk this over with your accountant? Hey, have you had a chance to talk this over with your wife? Have you had a chance to talk this over with whoever?" Whatever stall, whatever put off, whatever smokescreen they put in front of you, you just politely accepted, maybe a little too polite, and then now you're forced to send an email that just sounds like no good response has ever come as a result of that. So anyway, that's a little pet peeve of mine. This quadrant is the friendly plan B quadrant. Friendly plan B. Friendly plan B. Are you a friendly plan B? Meaning you are trying to win the business with relationship, trying to be liked, trying to be nice, trying to give good service that isn't clear, isn't specified. And when you don't end up winning the business, are you saying something like, "Well, we could try again next year. Or I would love to be the plan B. Or I would love to be your number 2. I'd love to be right there, just waiting for the next time you decide to shop around for a new program, or the next time you're shopping around for a different broker." Is that what you're trying to do? Are you trying to be the friendly plan B? All right, so that was diagnosis. Let's do a quick prescription before we close out this video. So if I'm somebody who is a friendly plan B, let's say I'm here and I want to get up to here, trusted advisor status. I'll put a little, how's that look? That looks all right. So if I wanted to go from friendly plan B to trusted advisor, my objective would be to learn to push a little more. So what do I mean by that? Learn to push means learn to push back politely and professionally when the prospect is making a decision that you think is walking directly into a pitfall. If you think they are making a mistake, learning how to tactfully disagree with them, learning to tactfully help them see a different point of view, a professional point of view that you have the benefit of sharing with them. Learning how to do that will empower you to be that trusted advisor who prioritizes being respected over being liked. So that's pushing back. Another kind of pushing that you need to learn to move from friendly plan B up to trusted advisor is to help push them into making a good informed decision. And I'm not talking about high pressure sales tactics. I'm not talking about building urgency where there is none, or making them feel like if they don't make a decision right now, right this second, that the offer is totally off the table or their life is going to be worse off as a result. But there are ways that you can motivate them to make a good informed decision by giving them the right criteria to make one. A lot of times, a lack of decision making is not because they don't have enough information. It's because they actually don't have criteria set. They don't know what a good decision looks like. So if you can learn to push them lovingly, like a personal trainer, push them like a spouse, push them like a family member, like a relative, true relationship building, challenging them to be more direct, challenging them to have clearly defined criteria so they know what a good decision sounds like. That is a great angle to, that's a great way to go about moving from friendly plan B up to trusted advisor status. So it's pushing back politely and professionally when you disagree with something that they're saying or something that they're doing to help them avoid a pitfall, and pushing them into making a good informed decision. Do not let them off of the hook. If you truly want them in a better position having talked with you, there's so many things that we could say about that. But really what I'm just trying to get at is the goal has to be helping them make a good informed decision. And usually that means you have a little more scope, a little more runway for pushing them ever so slightly, pushing them ever so lovingly into making that good decision. Okay, so that is the prescription for friendly plan B up into trusted advisor. What is the prescription for the pusher? So the pusher actually has, we'll say, the opposite prescription. If the friendly plan B has to learn to push a little more, the pusher has to learn to pull a little more. And pulling a little more in this context means that the pusher archetype, the pusher broker, the pusher agent, has to slow things down a little bit and invite the prospect in to collaborate a little more. Ask them more open-ended questions. Ask them more consultative questions. Ask them questions that would give you the insight into what would make them buy beyond price. It means ditching the underwriting questions for a little bit in the conversation to understand this buyer a little more, understand their family, their friends, their business associates, the type of person that you're actually dealing with, because it's going to make it a lot easier to pull them across the finish line if they feel like they've been coming along for the ride the entire conversation with you. If it's too asymmetrical, if it's too much of you just pushing your process down on them with no collaboration, no invitation to participate in it, and it's really just a matter of retrieving details and information and facts and figures and then spitting out a quote as quickly as possible, it's going to be very difficult to establish yourself as that trusted advisor, because you may have demonstrated competence, but you haven't demonstrated relationship enough for them to want to partner with you today, tomorrow, or for the rest of your career. All right, I hope this was a helpful video for somebody out here. I really need you to get this point into your head. To become a trusted advisor, you need a combination of prioritizing being respected over being liked, and also making sure that in your approach to building relationship, Again, we're not transactional. We're trying to build a relationship. We're doing so with clearly defined relationship expectations and clearly articulating what the value of our service and that partnership actually looks like. Hope this video was useful. I cannot wait to see you in the next one.